right. We'll call the project selection board meeting to order. Angela, would you call the roll?
Joey Bro.
Here.
Roger Jingles, he's absent. Brandon Burris.
Here.
Zach Lemoyne.
Here.
Brian Lazina.
Here.
Brian McClinton.
Here.
Charles Roulette.
Here.
Senator Gary Smith Jr. Representative Jerome Z. Zarang, he's absent. We do have 7 project selection board members here today. 1 is a non-voting member. We do have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. So everyone got a copy of the meeting minutes from October 10th meeting. Any edits, or could I have a motion to adopt? Second?
Second.
Any opposed? That motion is adopted. So we have this very thorough agenda before you. Does anyone have any comments to make to the agenda?
Move to accept the agenda.
Second? All right. Any opposed? The agenda is approved. All right. Now to business, the selection of the 2023 funding cycle, the selection of projects. So I know last time y'all received this, you had a version of based on just the technical advisory board. Then we had a version based just on funding. Kind of wanted to hear what the technical advisory board's view of their process was. And then said we would meet again today. I think some of the concerns that we mentioned was, adhering to sort of the science that was behind that, also being cognizant of spreading the wealth throughout the state of Louisiana to some degree and making sure that, all entities were represented in it. So how do y'all want to proceed with this? I think, Mr. Lazina, you said maybe go one at a time.
Well, we certainly could. I know we talked about a bunch of different ways on there. Unless anybody has any other ideas, we can do that. We can look at singular or in mass, but let's just go singular, I guess. You want to?
Does anyone else have any other suggestions on how to tackle this? So the first one is the conservation acquisition at Rockefeller Refuge with the land trust for $1 million. Highest ranking score one. Anyone have any questions or?
So, Mr. Chair, if I could, I know we had a lot of discussions about this last time to do this, and maybe in short, instead of going one by one, I would like to at least offer my suggestion in that we looked at. So I think if we took up to looks like what's about the 10th on the item, number 5 application on your list. I would like to start there if we could with these projects, assuming those projects would at a minimum be in. I would like to make a nod to the technical committee's grouping of these and the hard work that went into that. I think they did a great job doing that with recusals and everything else that went along with it, nods towards funding and science. So I guess if we could, maybe we could look at that as a group and see if there was any modifications that the group might want to make to that, if that makes sense. Any additions or subtractions?
Sure. I think he's talking about going
right. If we looked at fully funding all of these projects,
87 to number 70, the one that has 70, to say the CC Road Preserve, Longleaf Flatwoods, because then when you hit that 69, you're going to hit the Ducks Unlimited, Russell Sage Wetland Enhancement, and there's another one that's right at 69, the Beta Springs Conservation Area. So you're suggesting 70 and above, or you're suggesting wrapping that Russell Sage Wetland Enhancement in there as well?
Well, I would suggest that we have, I think currently if we wrap that in as well, it leaves us with, and I don't have the math in front of me, but an overage of 180,000 or so, 170,000. Again, this as a starting point, I think we all agree, looking at the science behind this, the funding and others. I'd like to see those top projects definitely kind of stood out from those. Now, again, if the group has any modifications, we can discuss those as well. But I would like to say at least then that project, it's number 5 on your sheet. I think it's the 10th in the row.
Yes.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10.
Yeah, you're correct.
From there. So I'd like to consider at least as a minimum those projects.
So, and when you say consider those, you're saying, and I'm just being technical, because I mean, we have one $4 million project in there that is well above anything on this first page right here. And we had a lot of discussion before about amounts of funding and maybe breaking things up. And so when you're trying to make sure I'm understanding your motion there fully, when you're saying discuss these or accept these or do these, you're saying vote them in and do these, or are you talking about just talk about them, or what are we?
I think this warrants again, just to add a little bit speed here, instead of going down singly through the whole entire list of X numbers. I think we all agree that those are our top candidate projects. And so I would like to start the discussion with those as our baseline projects. I think, and I would like to as well discuss maybe in a little more detail some of the numbers behind here, like you mentioned, this one particular project, and what potentially we could do with this list other than that. But so, no, the motion is not to necessarily accept in total and be done with and walk out with these. But let's start with these projects as as the understanding that, you know, we basically all agree these are the top scoring projects, and in the absence of any other information would move forward. So,
okay. All right.
Well, Mr. Lazina, I've actually looked at these and actually read the ones that you know, without the great match, the Longleaf Pine Flatwood Savannah at 16% match, and then the Abita Springstown, which I know is not included in your list, at the 7% match, but the town of Abita Springs, and just sort of looking at what scalability those read, and in reading their scalability, I didn't see that it clearly defined an ability for those to sort of be scaled. It seemed like that was what they were asking for, was the minimum. I know that we're looking at that $4 million one. I personally would like to see us try to fund more stuff that are not state agency engaged. So I was looking at that community development in cooperation with the Partner of New Orleans, that $250,000 one there, trying to fund that, and then also the town of Abita Springs as well. So my playing around with this, if we took those top 10 that you're looking at, included the wildlife habitat conservation through prescription fire with the American Bird Conservancy, and then included the City of New Orleans Community Development Corporation one. I am not including the Russell Sage WMA Enhancement number 2, which I know is rate 68, because I did. Mr. Longman was kind enough to look at all the projects and the questions that Gulf Grand Isle Shipyard asked us about. And that was one of the contingencies, that they have not received that NALCA grant yet. I know that this system is designed to be able to approve projects that the grant hasn't been approved. So it was prudent of them to submit. And I hope in the future people submit when they, you know, approve grants. And it may not be, but since I have 10 million in the hand, bypassing that one, we could fund basically all the way down to New Orleans and still have 3.1 million available for the Bogachita conservation area. But that question is that enough? Yes, sir.
Partner with New Orleans, talk about project number 41.
41, yes. Yeah. If you go down that list, funding from 25 to 41, jumping over number 27, and we'd have to remove basically about $854,000 from the Bogachita project, leaving them with $3,146,908. So I don't know what that does to that project. So that's kind of my first question is, if we ended up knocking that 4 million down to 3.1, what does that do to that Bogachita project?
Can we ask members of the public to give clarification answers? Because technically I'm very much involved, but we're not the actual applicant.
Sure. Yes, sir.
Mr.
Answer
Stacy?
this. It needs to be green, I believe, Stacy.
Stacy Shankle, Trust for Public Land. So the project, as I've said before, is scalable. We could scale up or we could scale down. Exactly what that dollar amount would translate into is going to require me to go back and look at project boundaries, and then talk about that with our agency partners and the landowner. But the project is scalable.
So you're not concerned with this jeopardizing the entire project?
Not jeopardizing the entire project, no.
It may affect Stacy, if I can, may affect the exact perimeter of the project, right? Of course, certain acres of the land within the project are perceived to be more valuable than other acres of land based upon highway frontage and stuff like that. So we won't probably be able to give you exact boundary of it, but yes, it would be scalable to some extent or to
Yes.
complete extent.
Yeah, we would have to revisit what the project boundaries would be. Absolutely.
Within that first suite of projects, that was really my suggestion, or personally looking at the projects. So I'd love to hear other people's input on
Brian,
what they
was,
thought.
just for clarification, was that, so those additions, that would be removal of Russell Sage, 2,
Yes, sir. Number 27, project number 27.
right? The 27, the Abita Springs Conservation Area, the Sankofa Land Conservation, and then the Habitat Conservation through prescribed fire burn,
Yes, sir.
and a reduction from the Bogachita project.
To basically get us to the delta of $10 million, which is 3.146908.
So then all of the projects above that we
Would be
mentioned would
approved.
still be improved in
You would end
at
up,
that budget level.
yeah, you'd end up with 13 approved projects instead of the original 10,
Mhm.
spending the $10 million. You would have a city of New Orleans, Abita Springs, Shreveport, and Lafourche Parish, which I think it shows like at least we have a lot of projects that aren't necessarily just tied to state government, but are in, local municipalities. I think you have it kind of spread out throughout the state. And then I don't know what the match funds would be on that Bogachita, since Mr. Stacy says he didn't know. So we would end up probably somewhere around $35 million in new totals, like total money for the state of Louisiana with the $10 million. So that's just me, what my numbers look like. Yes, sir. Mr.
Okay.
Charles.
Real quick, can you clarify why, you said it, but why are we skipping the Russell Sage number 2?
Just because the NALCA grant has not been approved yet.
Gotcha.
So the grant that this program is tied on has been submitted for, but not approved. And I have let if talking to Mr. Lawman, if we could continue this program, it would be maybe eligible to apply for it again next year.
Thank you.
Not knowing exactly how the federal budget's going to go right now.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Brian,
Yes,
did you
sir.
also do the math on the other side? If that was to come to light, the fund project will be down to 15. What are we looking at in total of drawdown match funds from the big picture?
Well, looking at it, I have 37 million, but I understand that 3.1 may not generate the 4.3 that you had before. I don't know, Mr. Stacy, the matching funds, is that going to be affected what you have for matching funds? Or is that going to still be total on the project?
Frankly, I would assume that exact match ratio would vary, because whenever we scale the project, acres are going to change and the dollars spent are going to change. So I think that would be an iterative process. Would have to go back and forth with the agency partners to see what acres are going to be in the modified boundary. So I would expect some modification, but hopefully not a huge amount.
Yeah, so if that doesn't change, then we're at 37,954,000. If that does, that's why I said 35. I just rounded down to a nice round number saying, maybe 3 million is not able to get as much match as the 4 million would. But if you're still able to capture all that match, the $10 million would generate an additional $37.9 million for the state of Louisiana.
Mr. Chairman, I know there were quite a few of these that were linked to state agencies, and in particular wildlife and fisheries. See, we have 1, 2 in the top 3. Am I reading it right? Is it just 3 in the top list that we've kind of identified here, or am I missing?
Yes, sir,
some?
you are, but that I will say number 21 is not, number 20, project number 26 is on our property. And project number 5, which will be funded, is on our property. The other ones are just us as the state qualifying it as a state partner, because you have to have some sort of state partner or some sort of nexus to be able to qualify for the public dollars. So the number 21 isn't necessarily a wildlife and fisheries. It's just we're the sort of the partner with I guess we're all the organization writing it. Is there anyone here wildlife fisheries who could talk on the longleaf, the track pine, Savannah Flatwood Pond project? Mr. Early.
Hello, my name's Brian Early. I'm a plant community ecologist with Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, and I helped develop that proposal and can answer any questions you might have.
You want to give a synopsis of it to the senator?
Yes, sir. So this property is extremely unique. It is the only property left with old growth longleaf pine system on it, old growth flatwoods. It's the highest quality flatwood pond that we have left in the state. Those are 2 natural communities that we rank as imperiled or critically imperiled for the state. And it's the only property in the state that has both of them. Also, additionally, it's the only property in the state that has 2 high functioning natural communities on it and has been managed as working lands for an extended period of time. So it's a perfect trifecta, this project. 90% of Louisiana is publicly owned. If we want to learn how to conserve Louisiana lands and have them available for multi-use, especially working lands, I think this property holds the key. Not only is it special from a natural community perspective, it's also really unique and could provide a lot of insight onto how we can properly manage our lands to reach more ecological services and more benefits for us. There's something that's been done right on this property that we don't necessarily fully understand. And for that reason, this property is extremely unique. Also, in surveying this property since 2019, it's got the highest density of plant species per quarter meter than any other place in the state. And that's hitting 25 to 35 plant species in an area that's about this big, which then translates to insects and other wildlife. And it's been actively used as farmland for decades.
Is this something that the department is just the sponsoring agency, or the department is the actual agency that would be doing this or would it be purchasing the land or would it be?
It is a land acquisition. It was originally 500 acres. Parts of it have been sold off. So it's about 388 acres now. And it's near another WMA. We hope to enroll that as a satellite property into another WMA. But with that being said, in that application, we do intend to have it continuously managed as working lands and have limited access for small game hunting and things like that, as well as research.
Okay. So even though the state would own it, you would have a private entity operating it
Yes.
then.
Yes, sir.
And so we would be preserving it
Yes.
for its ecological benefits, but we wouldn't necessarily be opening it up to the public as a public property.
It would be open to the public. It would be a public property. It'd be a limited use, small game hunting or focal area is what we envision it as well as it's already been used as an educational piece, and there are a number of universities doing research out there. But we hope to incorporate hiking trails and things like that into it as well. So for more passive recreation, absolutely.
So two questions. One, if we were not to include this, would this project go forward, or is it totally contingent on getting funding from this batch of funds? And number one, and number two, if that's the case, scalability. I mean, I guess just less money you have is less property you can buy. This would be.
Yes. I understand the match is not as competitive as other projects here, but again, I spoke to the uniqueness of this project, the uniqueness of this property. It's for sale, and parts of it have been sold off. If this funding is not granted for this project now, we have no other mode to support this project and keep it going as of now. And we're also competing against the open market. The landowner has assigned a letter saying if it was awarded, he would pull it off the market for an extended period of time until the funds came through, and we could then acquire the property. But again, that's contingent upon it being granted. It has been for sale. We could potentially negotiate for a lower cost or a slightly smaller piece of the property. I don't know. And right now it's going for about the asking price. And in there, I did put it's the asking price or the appraised value. So we could possibly get by with a little less.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you.
As a state agency, we're not allowed to buy property for more than appraised value. So it would be whatever it's actually appraised at.
Thank you.
I'm looking for other questions, suggestions. No, Joey Bro has an opinion.
On the last project discussed?
On anything, Joey.
Well, I agree with everything that we've talked about thus far. Particularly fond of what I just heard from Mr. Early. That is a project that the department supports. The local soil and water conservation districts have been directly and indirectly involved in such activities in that very ecotype, using prescribed ag processes as a form of biomimicry to maintain those ecotypes. Beyond that, now that we've talked about reducing potential award amounts to get further down the list, it just keeps sounding good. And I don't have any answers right now, but I'm picking over some of the other high dollar claimed scalable projects and just thinking to myself how we might bite into the list a little deeper, even if just another project or two. But turning it over in my head right here, I haven't come to any conclusions yet.
Mr. Chairman, I just looking at this, you said with the reduction, because I concur with those last comments about just trying to get as many projects as we can. And that's still my reluctance on number 45 is just that it is so much more than most of the others here. And how do we still give them a bang for their buck, but yet include more projects? When you reduce that from 4 to 3.1, did that include number 41 and number 4 or just number 41?
So
On
it
the map.
included, it added number 29, number 40, and number 41. So we were all the way down to number 5 in the original. And
Uh-huh.
then by reducing that, we're able to pick up Town of Abita Springs.
29, 40, and 41.
Yeah, 29, 40, and 41. Yes, sir.
Because I was looking at number 4, which is a really good match. And it's only, I hate to say it like this, but it's only 90,000.
It is. It's also to fund a position. So
Oh,
that was
really?
yes, sir. The 90,000 is to fund a position. So I looked at like,
So yeah, what do they do next year?
exactly.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
that was my hesitation. Then the one below that was St. Tammany, which is 2 million, which is a great project. And, but it's just a huge marker. So that was my thought process to get to where we are right now
Yeah,
and reviewing it.
yeah, definitely looked at that because the next 4 projects, I mean, 2 million, essentially $1 million, 2.5, and $1 million, and then 2.5. You know,
Yes, sir.
next 5 projects are big numbers. All right.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think, I think that's good. I like the inclusion of more if the project supporter for number 45 is okay with that. I don't want to necessarily, I don't think I see a lot on here that I feel comfortable cutting too much more out of, because a lot of these things that are large scale, excuse me, not large scale. Some of them are in the grand scheme of things, they're scalable, but you're not really, I mean, it's an incremental cost. And like Senator said, the next projects are big projects, or some of these are preservation of some critical areas that I can appreciate, not necessarily the mission there, but some of these things that are rare in Louisiana. And so I'd hate to see us go and try and whittle away at a few of those. So yeah, I just don't want to lose sight of what we're doing here. I understand scalable, but some of these things are really critical features as well. So I want to make sure everybody weighs in on this. So. All right. Well, everybody's staring at me here. So let's see if we can get the ball rolling a little bit since I started us off. I move that the selection board make the following for awards. The projects is outlined by Mr. McClinton. So that would be, Coley, I don't have to read each and every one of these, do I?
You do not. It looks like you're going to go as it's presented in the application scores
Yes.
from project 25 down to project 41, with the exclusion of project 27 and an alteration of the requested funding for project 45.
Correct. Right. So we're going to move forward with those having a final score of 65 and above, excluding that project number 27. And listed as number 27 application, and a reduction of funding to $3.1 million for the project number 45, listed application number 45. And that's my motion.
And I will say too, if we can if you'd be willing to amend your motion to say, fund number 45 up to whatever that would, to get us to the $10 million. So if the 1.4 million that Mr. Early talked about comes back less and there's more money, I would like to move that towards that Bogachita project to put as much money towards that acquisition, which was number 2, as possible.
Sure, I know speaking with folks, it was a highly recommended project, so I'd be okay with that as well to add to the motion.
All right, we have a first and a second. Any public comment? Any opposed? All right, seeing none opposed. Those are approved. Now, any general public comment that wasn't based on the motion? Can I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Mr. Lemoyne. Second? All right, we are adjourned. Thank y'all.